Hey guys, it's Robert coming at you with another video. Today I'm going to be talking about selling men's ties on eBay. I'm going to take you through the whole process that I use to sell men's ties on eBay, why I think they're a great addition to your stores, and just all the benefits of them. I'm wearing my Harley Davidson tie to celebrate the theme of today's video. This is one that I've got listed currently on eBay, and as a side note, Harley Davidson, another killer brand in shirts, jackets, anything with Harley Davidson, worth picking up. I've got an item I got to ship out tomorrow actually on another Harley Davidson sale. So anyways, benefits of selling ties. If you're just getting started on eBay and you want to increase the number of listings that you have really quickly, I think ties are a great item to do that with. If you have limited storage space, then ties are awesome. You can get a whole bunch of them and it doesn't take up a lot of room. So again, in the eBay game, getting a lot of listings going, building a lot of sales, that's going to help gain traction. So some items aren't going to be the big ticket winners for you, but they're going to help you achieve a little bit more substance and increase your seller ranking, increase your reviews, and just help you build some traction. So items that you can start to build up your inventory without taking up tons of space if you don't have it are certainly valuable, and ties is probably my favorite for that reason. As far as sourcing them, I think people overlook ties. I've known a few other eBay sellers that were doing pretty well, and they had actually never even given any thought to ties. Of the couple hundred items so far that I've sold, I've probably got 25 to 30% of those that are ties. So they're a pretty good item to be selling, and there's surprisingly some profit in it if you know what to look for. So Goodwills, you're going to find them all over the place. I actually really like smaller thrift stores for ties specifically, because Goodwills right now, you'll see they put different prices on all their ties, and as they become a little bit more familiar, certain brands, they start to mark those up a little bit more. And I've seen ties $6, $7, $8 tagged at Goodwill. So that really can eat into your profit margin pretty quickly on a lot of the brands. But if you go to some of your smaller thrift stores, they'll have a tie rack and they'll have a sign on it that just says, all ties $1.99, or maybe it's even $3.99. But if you know which brands to look for, you can really quickly identify whether it's going to be profitable for you or not. In general, a lot of the brands that I'm talking about, you're not going to want to spend more than $2 or $3, and you shouldn't need to. There are going to be some brands that even if you have to spend $10, it'll be worth it and you can make some good money. So I'll go through which brands specifically I think are worth the different price points. And I'm only really going to focus on brands that I've personally found, and ideally have found more than just one time. There's a few other brands out there that do well, and you'll hear a lot of people say, oh yeah, this is a brand that you want to always be on the lookout for. It's great. I've been on the lookout for some of those and I've never found them. So I want to focus on stuff that I know you can definitely find fairly frequently, and you can make money on fairly frequently. So going through what types of things that I look for in ties, brand is certainly going to be the number one. The material that they're made of. I only buy ties that are silk or wool. I don't mess around with polyester ties at all. You're going to see a lot of polyester ties out there, and for the most part I haven't really found a brand that consistently is sought after in polyester. In terms of the make of them, I tend to like woven ties when I can find them a lot better than printed ties. I'll show you what those look like, but for instance this Harley Davidson one is a printed tie. Wovens, a little bit more craftsmanship involved, and I think there's a little bit more potential for profit involved with those. And then lastly, obviously, is condition. You want to really make sure that you look for ties that don't have stains, don't have snags, pulls, tears. And then one of the other common things you'll see in ties can be wrinkling. You want to find ties that have a nice unwrinkled top to bottom. If there's wrinkling and it's on the ends, this is not nearly as significant as if there's any wrinkling on the front where somebody would be wearing it and it would actually be visible. Just like if I see a little bit of damage, the closer it is to the end of the tie, I think generally the better, because you're not going to see that. Another thing you're going to find a lot is the back part here. If this is loose and it's a good brand, not the end of the world, but ideally, you want this to be intact, and it definitely needs to be there. So those are some of the things that I look for. There's been a lot of ties I've picked up that have very, very small stains on them that I've been able to get out with ease. As you start dealing with ties more frequently, you will kind of be able to figure out, okay, can I maybe iron this out, press it out, can I clean that little stain, is that little snag that big of a deal? Smaller damage items, you got to think about, if I was wearing this, would I be comfortable presenting that tie, or is that little stain, that little snag, something that's going to jump out and ruin my outfit? So simple enough there. In terms of storing ties, that's one of the reasons that I think they're so valuable to add to your eBay stores. Really, really easy to store. I picked up this little plastic bin here for 99 cents at Goodwill, and I could put about 20 items or so, depending on the size of them. This one's got maybe 10 in here. I've got this little bit bigger one that, again, I've got, I don't know, probably between 20 and 30 in this particular one. I just disorganized all of these so I could make this video for you guys. But what's really nice, I could store this very easily, stack them up very easily, and then when it goes to getting a sale and identifying which tie and which bin, it's pretty easy. Like, I can just turn this over and I can see every single one of my ties. Or on this one, I can just rotate it, and I pretty much have full access to really quickly seeing what ties are where. So if you haven't gotten real sophisticated with your labeling system and putting things in boxes by color or brand, you can get started pretty easily and keep these organized without having to do a whole lot. So a lot of items, as you start to scale and you have more and more of them, you have to really be organized so you're not constantly digging through box after box trying to find that old t-shirt that you listed early on and forgot about. So ties are definitely easy to store. They don't take up a lot of space. It's pretty easy to keep them organized. And yeah, so that's one of the reasons I like them. When it comes to listing ties, I list everything that I have on eBay with strictly just my smartphone. But listing ties is quick, it's easy. I only need generally to take 4 or 5 pictures. I roll the ties up pretty much how you saw them in my boxes, and then I put them on just a white flat surface. I get my phone, make sure that I'm not getting any real shadowing, and I just take a picture of that tie rolled up. I maybe pull the center out a little bit so that you can kind of see more of the tie. I take a picture of the back tag, the brand. I take a picture on the smaller one. You'll generally find where it'll show that it's made in the USA or made in Italy, 100% silk, or it'll say like Seta, S-E-T-A, which is silk, I believe in Italian. So you want to include that information, make it really easy for somebody to see if it's silk or if it's wool, where it's made. Made in the USA, made in Italy, significantly better than made in China. So that's something you want to pay attention to. And then I will take a picture of any small blemishes or issues. If that part on the back here is loose, I make sure I take a picture of that, and then I'll kind of take a full picture of the tie, just kind of bent and showing it in completion. But all said and done, usually you can do all of those things in maybe 4 or 5 photos. So it doesn't take very long to list them. The other piece of information you want to include when you list them is the width of the tie, which is this portion to this portion right at the bottom. The widths that tend to do the best are going to be between about 3.5 and 4 inches, which is kind of your classic width. Skinny ties, in most of the brands that do well, I haven't found a lot of skinny ties in them. So they tend to be fairly classic in the width. And then you want to take the length. So the overall end-to-end length, what I do is I fold the tie in half, get the tips lined up, measure that and then times it by 2, and you've got your full length. And generally your classic length is right at about 59 to 60 inches. If you have anything that's over 60, generally that's going to fall into the extra long category, which can do really well, for taller, bigger people. But again, brand is going to be the most important element to that. So, shipping ties, again, super easy. I have this little poly mailer that I got from eBay. Once you open up a store, you actually get a coupon from eBay if you go into your seller's tools for like $25. So that was enough to get 100 of these for free by using my coupon. And these, you just throw your tie right inside of it, put your label on the front, ship it out. It's really easy. I also use my shipping scale on my ties. I picked this up off of Amazon, I think for like 20 bucks or so, and this is how I make sure that I get the exact ounce weight of the tie in the package. If you're building your listing, generally eBay is going to put their estimated ounce weight on there. I typically leave that alone or round it up to like 5-6 ounces, and just to play it safe. That's kind of your average ounce weight. But what I find is a lot of times that tie ends up only being 2.5 or 3 ounces, and in the first class shipping, every ounce counts. So shipping a 3-ounce item versus a 6-ounce item is a little bit different. I do not do free shipping on any of my items, so if I have it based on eBay's standard and they do 5 ounces and then it ends up where it's only weighing 3 ounces, then I end up potentially making another $1.50, $2 just on the shipping portion of that item. If you're doing free shipping, you're not going to be able to take advantage of that, but that's how I do it. So yeah, that's basically all that you need. This is like a 8.5 by 11 or so on these, and makes it really, really easy to ship. It looks professional. It's got eBay's name on it. And if you open up a store, once you've got enough listing items to justify having a store, then you can pretty much get that thing for free. So shipping, again, really, really easy. And that brings us to the brands, which is the most important part, identifying the brands that sell. In general, a lot of the brands, if you're not big on like high-end fashion, the brands that you might think of because you see them in JCPenney's, Macy's, Kohl's, Dillard's. There's a lot of brands that people wear all the time that are really nice. Most of the brands that I was buying before doing this, I thought, oh, these are really nice ties. Come to find out, as far as resale, they're worthless. So kind of a rude awakening, I guess, in terms of my fashion sense. But I wasn't going out and buying $200 to $300 ties. And some of these brands, that's what people would be looking at for them new. So there's plenty of opportunity to make profit on them when you're selling them, for 30 or 40 bucks on some of these brands. So I'm going to start again, like I normally like to, with the brands that maybe you can find the most frequently, but also you're going to make the least amount of money on, and then I'll kind of work my way up to some of the brands that I've had my biggest sales on, margin-wise and dollar-wise. So one that kind of surprised me, but is a pretty decent brand for ties. If you can pick them up, for $1, $2, Polo by Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren's just one of those brands that people are familiar with. They like. It's a good brand. They've been around forever. So Polo and the actual Ralph Lauren labeled ties are both going to be pretty valuable. If you can get them for like 99 cents, you can generally sell them for anywhere between $12 and $20. Sometimes you'll get more if they're real unique, but a pretty basic tie, you can still get a $10 return on a $1 or $2 item, and build up that sales volume. Another brand that I've found a lot of that you can certainly make $20 to $30 on is a brand out of New York, I believe, called Ike Behar. And this is one that, like most of the ties that I'm going to show you, the more unique, the better. Vibrant colors, exotic patterns, they're typically going to do do the best. So the more unique, the more vibrant, the stuff that you might be like, who would wear that? Those are probably going to be the ties that do the best. So Ike Behar, again, I don't like to spend more than maybe $4 on an Ike Behar tie. But most of the time I'm going to list it probably 20 to 30 bucks. And, you know, take best offers like $15, $16 on them. So another one that's very similar to that, Brooks Brothers. Brooks Brothers is a men's brand that, you know, whether you're talking about shirts, ties, they have a lot of following. And they don't do, for me, real well in any category as far as like lighting the world on fire. But if I can get one for $2 or $3, I can usually turn that into, you know, 15 to 20. And every once in a while, if I find a really unique one, I might get 25 to 30 for it. I found like a wool one that had a bunch of foxes on it, and that one sold pretty quick, and I think I made $20 profit on it. So, yeah, Ike Behar, Brooks Brothers, kind of similar in that respect to me. Another one that I kind of throw into that category, you'll hear people talk about a lot, and you'll find these a lot, is Ermenegildo Zegna. It's Zegna, and I think it's Zegna is how it's pronounced. But these ties I actually find quite a bit, and another tie that I don't generally like to spend more than $2 or $3 on, but if it's unique and it's in good condition, you can often get $15, $20 sale on it. So, you know, minimum every one of these ties you should be able to make $10 profit on. Salvatore Ferragamo is another brand that has a variety of men's clothing on it, and yeah, I found some that do really well, others, you know, not so much. This one's got a bunch of hot air balloons and things on it. I picked this up for like $1.99, and I think I have it listed for $25. I've got a couple watchers on it. Not my favorite brand, not one that I find a ton of, but if it's in good condition, I know that there is power to this brand name, so yeah, I'll pick those up. And working our way up, another one that you can actually make some pretty good money on, but you know, if you buy it right, you buy it for $1 to $2, and I think you can always get around 20 for them. I think I've sold 2 of these for between 30 and 40, and that is a brand called Briony, Brione. Really pretty. Some of their ties actually include this little sleeve that allows you to just get the button attached from your shirt right to the tie, which is kind of a cool feature. Most of the Brionis that I found are actually woven ties, so whereas this Louis Ferragamo or Salvatore Ferragamo that I just showed you, and then like this Harley Davidson, these are printed. Brioni, this is an example of a woven tie. You can see that there's just tons of texture to it from it actually being woven. So these are the ties that I generally like to try and source over a printed tie. I think they do better. But Brioni, in good condition, does really well. And then another one that is actually probably the brand that I've sold the most frequently in as far as volume is going to be Robert Talbot from the Best of Class line specifically. Robert Talbot's a brand, I think Nordstrom's primarily is where I've found that they're sold. A lot of them will actually say Nordstrom's on them. But Robert Talbot ties, you want the best of class. There's Robert Talbot Studio, there's Robert Talbot's with like other names attached to them. But the best of class for me have consistently been the ones that actually sell and I make pretty good money on. Again, like the more unique the pattern, the better off it's going to sell. But most of them you'll see a pretty big label on the back of it. This one's like Robert Talbot Best of Class Bond Street. As long as it says Best of Class and it's in good condition, I find it does pretty well. So that's one. I'm not going to spend again any more than maybe $3 or $4 on it, but if you can buy it for under $4, you could probably bank on getting, you know, $20 for them. And again, if somebody has a best offer to me 14, 15, then I know I still turn around $9, $10 on it. And once you start building up 50 to 100 ties and you're selling them consistently, that's just a quick $10 that you can count on in addition to your other items. Moving along to another brand that is going to be a little bit divisive, as is the gentleman himself, but that is Donald Trump. And these, I have to find something that's unique about them, like the colors, the pattern, and it's got to be in good condition. But Donald Trump ties, if you go on eBay and you search sold ties, you will see that in the list of the brands that start coming up frequently. And there is a following, so there's money to be made in that brand as well. And then we start getting into brands that I think have a little bit more earning potential based off of being more designer brand. Hugo Boss would be my first one in that category, and it's worst case scenario, I think you're still going to be in that $20 to $30 range. It's got to be in good condition. The more unique, the better. But even some of the more basic kind of small geometric ties, they're just classy, and people that like Hugo Boss, search for it. It's a good product. Most of their ties that I've found, they're really well made, they're pretty. So even if they're not the most exotic pattern, they'll still do well. Don't pay more than $5 for a Hugo Boss tie, in my opinion. That's as high as you'd want to go there, but you won't lose at that price. Another one that I've actually found quite a few times that really surprised me is Burberry, and I think my highest selling tie was a Burberry tie. I found it at Savers for $6 and was glad to pay $6 for it, because as I was in there searching on my phone, I found that this tie was selling for $70, $80. And so I bought it, listed it, and it took about a month and a half or so before I got a best offer that I liked, and it was for like $65. So $6 tie, $65 sale. I was more than happy to have that sitting in a little tub for a month and a half. Burberry's, you'll find also Burberry's of London. So I'm not exactly sure what the difference is between the ties that just say Burberry and the ties that say Burberry of London. I think maybe they're just kind of the European versus American line. Whatever, they both sell. So Burberry, if you can find those and they're undamaged, that is definitely a win for sure. Louis Vuitton, this is one example of one that's kind of loose, but because it's Louis Vuitton, I didn't care. If you find one of these, I would pay up to probably $6, $8 for typically a Louis Vuitton, because you'll probably get 30 to 40 for it pretty easily. So Louis Vuitton in any brand is going to do well. Just like Prada and Gucci, I've yet to find either of those brands, but if I ever find a Prada or a Gucci tie, I'm going to snag that real quick, and I'd probably pay up to $10 for them. Again, if I'm sitting in the store with a Prada in my hand, I'm going to go on my eBay app, search and see what kind of sales have been made on eBay with Prada, and if I'm seeing that at the moment there's a lot of ties selling for $50, $60, then hey, I might even pay $15 for it, and know that I'll sit on it for a little while, but eventually make some good money. Another brand that I have found that is pretty high end is going to be DuChamps, and DuChamps London. This is a great example of a beautifully woven tie. I found this at a Goodwill for $3 along with another one that was the same basic look but in blue. So they were $3 each. The blue one I already sold, and it sold for like $50. So $3 to $50, I'll take that all day. This one I've been sitting on for a little bit longer, and that's just partly because I'm stingy. Like, I could list this tomorrow for between $25 and $30, and I'm sure that it would sell. I've still got it up at like $50. It's no skin off my back. All my ties have been well paid for by other tie sales, and so they're just sitting in a plastic bin, and I'm willing to wait around for a little bit more margin on it. But on some of those, at the point you decide you're ready to just start clearing stuff out, you can drop them fairly significantly and still make a 20 out of it. So a couple brands that I've yet to find that I hear people talking about, and if I ever find one, you can be sure that I will pick it up, but I just haven't wasted that much time on them because I know they sell really well, but I've just never found one. And that's Hermes, Hermes. I know that it's supposed to be a really great brand, high end. You could probably sell them for $80-100 all day, but I've never found one, so I'm still waiting to come across that Hermes tie. Another brand, Kiton, Kiton, with a little red dot for the eye. I found a shirt that I picked up for like $3 and have sold it for $90, but I've yet to find a tie. So all the brands that I'm showing you are brands that you can see I physically have gone out and sourced, and I think are fairly you're fairly likely to find. So, you know, keeping your eye out for stuff like that. Those are brands that you can easily build some inventory on. Robert Talbot's, those come up all the time. Ike Behar surprises me how frequently I find those. Ermenegildo Zegna or Yegnas, Brooks Brothers, all those brands, like, you definitely can go out and find at Goodwills and at your thrift stores. On top of that, you know, there's a lot of ties kind of like this Harley Davidson or sports teams that are worth, you know, looking at if you can get them really cheap. But I don't typically want to spend more than 99 cents to $1.99 on any type of a sports team or Disney. You know, a lot of that stuff that's just, they're not like fashion brands as much as they are something that, you know, makes a statement about what a person's into. So anything that I feel like is kind of lifestyle, like I'm really trying to highlight that I'm into guitars or something like that, those brands, there's just not as many sales that I'm seeing on eBay. So if you can get them really cheap, they're in good condition, yeah, snag them if you're willing to sit on them for a while. But I wouldn't waste too much time like trying to go out and gather all the NFL sports teams ties that you can find, because they don't tend to sell as much. So I think that pretty much covers all of it. Ties are really, really easy to list. They will sell. You can make probably $10 on every tie that you buy if you're, you know, sourcing them properly, and they'll build up your inventory. So I think that it's definitely for beginners worth looking at ties as a way to kind of accelerate your sales and your stock. And then anybody else that's dealing with men's fashion brands, give it a shot. Like, take a look at adding it to your mix. I think they're one of those things that you'll find a lot of people are overlooking, even experienced sellers, and they don't necessarily bring in huge sales, but you know, you get enough of them and they start to add up. So if you guys found this video helpful, please go ahead, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications, and I'll be posting more videos on other things that I like to sell that I've had success with. And hopefully this takes you through the start to finish process of sourcing and selling and shipping men's ties. If you have any questions, feel free to comment those below. I will get to them and answer those. And hope you guys have a great day. Happy selling.